If you told me last year I'd be living out of a shack halfway up a Kentucky mountain with a busted radio, a dog that snores like a chainsaw, and a guy named DJ Red who insists on broadcasting to an audience of, 3 raccoons in the wind, I would have said you'd been dipping skullberry too long. Rest in peace, Josh. Still the only man I've ever seen actually enjoy that stuff. It's been a month since the Peking shootout. Sometimes I still hear the gunfire at night. Sometimes I swear I see Josh leaning against the Corolla, grinning with that pack of Sonoma Reds stuffed in his shirt pocket. We buried him up on the ridge, right by his favorite tobacco store, gave him a fresh carton and a can of berry dip for the road. Nick even carved "Ain't No Law on the Mountain" into a chunk of old driftwood for a marker. I don't think Josh would have wanted anything else. After we said goodbye, we kept moving. The chemist stayed on the radio. He's got a rig that runs off old car batteries, so sometimes he actually comes through clear. He keeps us updated on the people's militia, where not to go, who to avoid. Man's a walking, talking can of WD-40, slick, but damn useful. Me, DJ Red, Amber, Nick, and Ed, God help us, made our way out past Nada Tunnel, up in Red River Gorge. We left the cars hidden in a thicket so thick even deer won't walk through. Gotta admit that Yugo of Ed's might still have a disco ball, but the paint's so scratched up now it looks like a zebra on bath salts. We hoofed it the rest of the way, about 3 miles up an old trail only Red knew about. Way back in the hollers, tucked into the hillside, was this ancient, half-collapsed cabin. Nobody'd lived there in decades, but the bones were good. Stone foundation, old iron stove, even an outhouse. Nick drew the short straw and has to clean it. It's home now. We've patched up the roof with tarps and cut firewood like pioneers. DJ Red set up his radio in the corner, broadcasting everything from weather updates to half-mad conspiracy theories about zombies that remember their birthdays. Amber's teaching Ed how to cook something other than canned ravioli. Progress is slow. And Nick's got his hands full keeping OL Boy and Mr. Nibbles from eating the leftover boots. It ain't much, but it's ours. The forest is quiet, the creek runs clean, and if you keep the fire low, nobody bothers you. I spend my evenings on the porch, cleaning my rifle, watching the shadows grow long, and wondering if this is as close to peace as we're ever gonna get. Sometimes I think I hear Josh laughing, like he's somewhere nearby, flicking a lighter and cracking open a fresh can of skullberry, just waiting for us to join him. Truth is, we didn't set out planning to live like hill people in the gorge. After peaking, we were pretty much running on fumes. Physically, mentally, even the cars were running on what felt like wishful thinking and Ed's questionable optimism. First thing we tried was heading back to Ed's old stronghold, the Dollar General in Inez. You ever seen a Dollar General after it's been ransacked, set on fire, and left for dead for a month? Buddy, it ain't pretty. The front windows were blown out. The shelves were twisted metal and melted plastic. And the only aisle left standing was the inspirational reading section. Ed marched in like he was coming home from war, and immediately came out waving a stack of half-scorched Bibles and 3 cans of sardines that looked like they'd been through hell. He was weirdly excited about a 2-liter of DR. Zippy Zero Sugar he found wedged behind the counter. Said it was Destiny. I told him Destiny didn't taste like burnt plastic, but he drank it anyway. Swear the man's got an iron stomach. We picked through the ashes. Nick found a bent soup ladle, Amber scrounged a tarp, and DJ Red just shook his head. This place is done, he said, and you could tell it hurt. Used to be you could get anything in a Dollar General. Now you'd be lucky to find a can opener that isn't welded shut. That's when DJ Red brought up Red River Gorge. I used to car camp up near Nada Tunnel in my Corolla, he said. No people, clean water, decent cover. If nothing else, we can regroup and not die for a week or 2. We all looked at each other. Ed was licking sardine juice off his fingers and decided it was the best idea we'd heard in days. So we packed up what was left, hid the cars deep in the brush, and made the hike up the old trail. The cabin was a miracle, drafty, sure, but solid. The place felt like a step back in time and maybe a step towards something like hope. Every now and then, when the fire's low and the night's quiet, I wonder if Thomas made it somewhere safe, if he found peace or just kept driving until the world ran out. I hope he's out there, somewhere, hearing the same wind in the trees, maybe even laughing at us trying to make pancakes on a wood stove that only cooks on one side. We're here because every place we tried to hold on to burned down or ran out, and the gorge was the first place that didn't try to kill us on arrival. Sometimes that's enough. Fast forward to today, a month and some odd days since we found the gorge, and I'll be damned if it isn't kinda homey. We patched up the holes, got the stove working on most days, and even started keeping track of time again, at least when the calendar Ed found isn't stuck to February. Somewhere along the way, Nick rigged up a rabbit trap and, well, turns out if you leave rabbits alone with plenty to eat, they do exactly what you'd expect. Now we've got more rabbits than canned beans, and Amber's gotten scary good at turning them into stew. Mr. Nibbles? He pretty much owns the place. Sometimes I'll see Ed marching off into the woods with him on a length of rope, all confident, only to come running back a half hour later, eyes wide. 9 times out of 10, Mr. Nibbles is trailing behind, grinning with a bone in his mouth bigger than he is. No clue what he's digging up out there, but I try not to ask. Ed says he thinks Mr. Nibbles is part bloodhound. I think Ed's part delusional. Old boy made himself a nest out of hay and pine needles behind the cabin. And if you're missing a sock, that's probably where it went. DJ Red managed, through sheer stubbornness and possible witchcraft, to get Ed's Yugo up the mountain. The trucks ran out of gas at the bottom, and now they're just oversized coat racks for the squirrels. Tonight, as dusk settles and we're all crammed around the stove sharing a half-warm meal, I catch myself watching the light. Snow's starting to fall slow, gentle, just enough to hush the world and make the woods outside glow blue. It's not much. The floorboards creak, the roof leaks when it rains sideways, and Ed snores like a dying raccoon. But for the first time in a long time, it almost feels like we're not just surviving, we're living. And out there in the hush, with snow coming down and the rabbits thumping in their cages, I almost believe we could make it through another winter. The weather's been chilly for a while now, but when the snow really started coming down, it caught us off guard. Wasn't much sticking yet, but every gust of wind cut through our patched jackets like we were wearing Swiss cheese. The animals felt it too. We wrapped old tarps around the rabbit pens, packed straw under OL Boy, and even piled hay in the woodshed for any critter tough enough to call this place home. Inside, that old stove was working overtime, and the woodpile out back was looking mighty thin. So who do we send? Ed, of course. He was gone a while, enough for Nick to start joking he'd fallen in love with a pine cone. Then the back door slammed, and Ed came hauling in a whole damn log. Not firewood, a log. Must have weighed more than the Yugo. I honestly don't know how he managed it. Sometimes I think Ed's powered by sheer confusion and caffeine. Red just stared, jaw hanging open, while Ed tried to catch his breath. "Boys," he said, "I brought the whole tree so we don't have to go out again for a while." He grinned, proud as a kid with a frog in his pocket. So there we were, the 4 of us, me, DJ Red, Nick, and Ed hacking away at this massive log in the cold dusk, axes ringing and hands going numb, trying to split it down to stove size before our toes froze. It was hard work, but the kind that keeps your mind off the cold. And at the end of it, we had a pile of wood, aching backs, and Ed's ridiculous story to warm us. The snow kept falling, quiet and steady, turning the woods blue as night settled in. The world outside was still dangerous, but for a moment, with the fire crackling and everyone laughing, it felt like we had our own little patch of peace. As we're tossing the last of the split wood onto the pile, DJ Red's radio crackles to life. The sound's jagged and grainy. Static hissing, voices tumbling in and out like ghosts fighting to be heard. Ed nearly jumps out of his boots. I grab the mic and give it a gentle smack. "Todd, come in. You copy? It's the chemist. Repeat, it's the chemist." I press the button steady as I can. "We're here. You all right?" His voice comes back, choppy but urgent. Cold snaps got every dead thing moving. Towns ain't safe. Zombies been hunting the last folks left. People are fleeing, some heading for the hills. I'm on the highway, gonna try to reach you at the cabin before the roads ice up. Might not make it if this snow keeps up. We all trade glances. Even Ed looks serious. Chemist's voice fuzzes through again. "If I don't check in by dusk, I need Ed, Mr. Nibbles, and you, Todd. to meet me on Route 77 by the big bent speed limit sign. If I break down, I'll need help, and keep your eyes open. Things are bad out here. The radio hisses, then falls silent. DJ Red gently sets it aside, and for a second all you can hear is the wind rattling the tarps and OL Boy shifting in his hay. I look at Ed. He's already got that wild, adventurous look in his eyes. Mr. Nibbles perched on his shoulder like a fuzzy sidekick ready for action. Bundle up, I say, and Ed, bring a real piece of firewood this time. He just grins. No promises. With the snow coming down harder, we shoulder our packs and set off through the woods, toward Route 77 and the chemist, hoping the world doesn't go entirely sideways before we get there. The plan is set. Nick and Amber hold down the cabin, keep an eye on the animals, and stoke the stove while me, Ed, and Mr. Nibbles head out. We pack up what we can, bundle up in every coat, sweater, and blanket that survived the last month. The snow's blowing sideways now, thick enough you can barely see your hand in front of your face. It fires up the Yugo. A miracle every time, honestly. The heater gave up the ghost weeks ago, so the inside's about as warm as a walk-in freezer. Still, she coughs, sputters, and roars to life on the third try, dented and scratched, a testament to Ed's ability to destroy but never quite kill. We pile in, me riding shotgun, Ed behind the wheel, and Mr. Nibbles curled up in Ed's lap, glaring every time Ed puts his hands on the steering wheel instead of on his head. Every so often, the Badger takes a swipe at his fingers, reminding him who's boss. The wipers are half busted, doing more smearing than clearing, but we creep along through the drifting snow, tires spinning and slipping on the icy ruts. Every bump and pothole rattles through the car, but Ed keeps her steady, jaw clenched, eyes squinting at the swirling white. We pass the bent speed limit sign just like the chemist said. Nothing but empty woods and the sound of snow hissing against the metal roof. Every so often, I catch Mr. Nibbles watching the storm like he's expecting something, or maybe just hoping for something to chew. I keep my rifle in my lap, trying to watch the woods for movement. The silence is heavy, almost sacred, like even the dead are keeping their distance. If we're lucky, we'll reach the chemist before the roads disappear completely. If not, well, at least Mr. Nibbles seems ready for anything. The Yugo skids to a stop in the blue half-light of dusk, right where the road bends around the foot of a hill. There's the chemist's El Camino, half buried in the snowdrift, hood up, hazard lights still pulsing a weak orange through the white. We pile out, breath steaming, boots crunching ice. Ed's carrying Mr. Nibbles like a furry football, and I bang on the frosted window. The chemist is inside, bundled up in a nest of sleeping bags and silver thermal blankets, looking half like a survivalist and half like a baked potato. He cracks the window, eyes bloodshot, but focused. "You bring coffee?" he rasps. I shake my head, and he sighs, but pushes the door open and climbs out, joints popping like old firewood. "Truck's done for," he says, jerking a thumb at the El Camino. "Heater died a day ago, but that's not the worst of it." I glance at Ed, who's already rifling through the glove box for snacks. "What happened?" The chemist leans in close, voice low. "Remember that militia rat we took after peeking? Bastard finally cracked last night. Told me the name of the guy running their show, Devon Cassidy. He's been hunting for all of us since the wire on Thomas got cut. Real piece of work, and he's obsessed. But they don't know where anyone's holed up. Not for sure." My gut tightens. "So now what?" He shrugs, all cold confidence. "Ain't no loose ends. I took care of the wiry little bastard before I left town. He won't be talking to anybody again. That crew's running scared, not organized, and with this weather, they'll be busy just staying alive. For now." Ed pops his head up from behind the seat, mouth half full of old trail mix. "You sure nobody's following you?" Chemist grins, baring teeth. "Not unless they like chasing ghosts through blizzards, but we should keep a close watch just in case." The wind picks up, swirling snow around our boots. I look at the chemist, then the battered Yugo, then back down the empty road, mindful now more than ever that peace out here is always temporary. "All right," I say, clapping him on the back. Let's get home before the badger eats the seats. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. With the snow piling up and the wind starting to howl, we all know we can't leave the chemist's El Camino sitting out like a neon sign for anyone who might be hunting us. So, after a few quiet words and one last check for anything useful, we line up along the battered fender and push. The thing grinds and squeals as it slips into neutral, wheels locked from the cold, but with enough muscle, and Mr. Nibbles digging at the tires for good measure, we get her rolling. The chemist is about to let it go when he yells, "Wait, beer, run." He dives back inside, rummaging through the passenger seat until he emerges triumphantly with a beat-up case of Milwaukee's Best Ice, half frozen and clinking with ice crystals. "Don't judge me," he says, wiping frost from the cardboard. "It's a classic." It shrugs. "That's what you call classic?" My grandpa used to call that the breakfast of mistakes. The chemist just grins and tucks the box under his arm. As we finish loading his gear into the Yugo, sleeping bags, 2 battered backpacks, a radio kit, and a Tupperware container taped up tight, Ed pauses, squinting at the plastic box. Inside, curled up and glaring, is a surprisingly lively iguana. No clue how it's still alive, but it looks about as unimpressed as the rest of us. The chemist pats the lid. "This is Hank. He's tougher than all of us put together. He bites if you look at him wrong, so just don't." We squeeze everyone in, Ed driving, chemist riding shotgun, me and Mr. Nibbles in the back with Hank the iguana, then push the El Camino off the edge. It slides down into the creek with a splash, sinking out of sight. Just one more ghost on the mountain now. We fire up the Yugo and start the slow, rattling drive home. Milwaukee's Best on the floorboards, badger on my lap, iguana in a box, and the blizzard swirling around us. Sometimes I wonder how we're still alive, but then again, it's probably better not to question it. We could see it from the last bend in the trail. Our old cabin in the blue gloom, lamplight leaking through ragged curtains, smoke curling from the stovepipe. But something was off. Shadows moved along the edge of the clearing, lean, hulking shapes pacing the snow, jaws snapping at the wind. Zombie wolves, at least a dozen, maybe more, circling in and out of the trees, fur patchy, eyes burning like embers. The kind of thing you only believed in after you'd seen enough of the world come apart. It hit the brakes and we coasted in on sheer ice and luck. We didn't even close the doors behind us, just grabbed what we could and sprinted for the porch. Howling and snarls rose all around as we ran. Nick yanked the door open from inside, wild-eyed. "Hurry up!" Amber was dragging a bookcase across the window while DJ Red hammered nails into the frame with the butt of his pistol. The living room looked like Noah's Ark if the flood had hit in a blizzard. Rabbits in wire cages stacked along the wall, both chickens pecking at spilled grain, a little boy pressed against the stove, and Mr. Nibbles hissing at anything that moved. We tumbled inside, slamming the door just as something heavy, claws or teeth, raked across the boards outside. Chemist pulled up the rear, clutching his case of Milwaukee's Best and the iguana box like his life depended on both. DJ Red glanced over his shoulder, sweat streaming down his face. "They started circling about 20 minutes ago. We got everyone inside just in time. They haven't tried the doors yet." Amber glared out the window, axe in hand. "We're not losing a single rabbit or a single finger to those damn things. Everyone stay away from the glass." Nick pushed a couch up to the back door, his jaw set. "Let's just hope the chickens don't start screaming." Outside, the wolves prowled, yellow eyes flashing, some snapping at each other, their howls echoing through the hollow. The whole cabin shook with every snarl and thump, but inside, for a moment, the world felt close. Everyone pressed together in the flicker of the firelight, a ragtag family with nothing but each other and a few stubborn animals. The wind battered the walls and the wolves kept coming, but for now, nobody was backing down. Inside the cramped, flickering cabin, we heard a sharp metallic clamp. One of the bear traps we'd set out in the snow finally did its job. A zombie wolf yelped, then howled, thrashing against the steel jaws. The other wolves flinched at the noise but pressed even closer, hunger winning out over fear. Ed, already halfway panicked, snatched up the old .22 rifle and threw open the nearest window just wide enough to stick the barrel out. "Don't worry, I got this," he shouted, taking aim at the writhing wolf. He squeezed off a shot. Crack! The bullet went wild, hitting nothing but snow and splinters, until, by some cosmic joke, another wolf leapt into the line of fire. It dropped with a muffled thud, and Ed blinked in disbelief. "Did y'all see that? That's how you do it, boys." Before we could answer, the wolf in the bear trap kept thrashing, jaw snapping at anything that moved. 2 more wolves lunged at the door, their claws gouging deep furrows into the wood. One managed to bite into the lower panel, splinters flying as it started to give. The old door, dry-rotted and patched more times than I could count, wasn't going to last much longer. DJ Red braced a table against the frame, sweat beading on his forehead. "That's not going to hold," he muttered. Amber, knuckles white on her axe, looked at me. "What's the plan, Sarge?" I checked my rifle, keeping my eyes on the growing crack in the door. "Get ready. If they break through, we drop every last one before they get a paw inside." Behind us, the animals huddled close. Rabbits quivering, chickens silent. OL Boy and Mr. Nibbles both pressed against Ed's boots, hackles raised and teeth bared. Even Hank the iguana looked nervous, burrowed deep in his little box. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the tension wound tighter and tighter. The door creaked again. The zombie wolves, dumb as they were still dangerous and desperate. We all waited, breath held, for the first head to burst through the wood. Nick was still hammering a plank across the lower half of the door when it happened. A splintering crack as the dry-rotted wood gave way. A zombie wolf, snarling and wild-eyed, burst through, its jaws snapping shut on Nick's forearm. Blood sprayed the inside wall. Nick's eyes went wide, shock etched into his face. He staggered, clutching his arm, then crumpled to the floor without a sound. DJ Red, "Open fire!" I roared, already sliding to my knees beside Nick. DJ Red didn't hesitate. He emptied his sidearm through the mangled hole, bullets tearing into the wolf's head and the snow beyond. The wolf collapsed in the doorway, twitching, but behind it more shadows pressed close, hunger burning in their dead eyes. Amber hovered close, panic in her eyes, hatchet still in hand. I snatched it from her grip. "Tourniquet now," I barked, using a strip of towel to cinch tight above Nick's bicep, hands slick with blood and cold sweat. Nick's face was white as a sheet. His breathing slowed, his eyes fluttered. "You got this, Nick. Stay with me," I yelled, more to keep myself steady than anything else. He looked at me, jaw clenched, and nodded once, just a flicker of the old stubbornness. I met Amber's gaze, the hatchet heavy in my hand. "This is the only hope he's got. Hold him." She swallowed hard and nodded. DJ Red fired another shot into the snowy dark as the wind rattled the broken door. Ed pressed back into the shadows, wide-eyed, holding Mr. Nibbles and mumbling prayers. There was no time to hesitate. The world narrowed to the blood, the cold steel, and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, we'd be fast enough. A final snarl, a blur of teeth at the busted window. Then a thunderous bang from the chemist's gold-plated Desert Eagle. The last zombie wolf collapsed in the snow, smoke curling from the barrel as the gun's echo faded into the woods. Inside, the room was heavy with panic and sweat. Nick was slipping away, blood pooling under his arm, his breath coming in shallow gasps. I clamped down on the tourniquet, heart hammering in my chest. The chemist knelt beside us, eyes sharper than I'd ever seen. He wiped his hands on his coat, then pointed to Nick's arm. "You gotta go high and clean, Todd. Right above the bite, angle down and in. Less muscle, easier to stitch or cauterize after. Use the hatchet, one good swing if you can." Amber pressed a wadded-up rag into Nick's mouth. DJ Red steadied Nick's shoulder. Ed crouched in the corner, eyes glued to the floor, whispering, "Oh man, oh man, oh man," over and over, clutching Mr. Nibbles like a teddy bear. "Ready?" the chemist asked, voice low and steady. I swallowed hard, set my jaw, and lined up the blade. remembering every bit of first aid training I'd ever had and wishing it were more. The world outside was silent now, the wolves finally gone. But inside, everything narrowed to this one impossible moment. I raised the hatchet. Hold him tight. Nick's eyes fluttered. He managed a weak grin. Guess I'll need a hand with my smokes. Then I swung.